Nakuta has recently been chosen as the new Media Ombudsman. Nakuta has a strong background on human rights and administrative law. In his acceptance speech last week, he acknowledged that he has no experience in the media world, but his passion for social justice will drive him to deliver on the mandate of dealing with complaints from members of the public. At the occasion, he made his stance clear on government's plans to introduce initiatives aimed at regulating the media. This includes the Access to Information Bill by the Ministry of Information that it claims will deal with irresponsible reporting. Also in the pipelines is the establishment of a new single telecoms and internet gateway, an idea highly criticized in the media fraternity. Good evening, viewers. I am Joseph Sheefeni, and our guest this evening is the new Media Ombudsman, Nakuta. Mr. Nakuta, welcome to An Exclusive.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thanks for the invitation.
My first question is, I would like to know, since you were never a journalist, what made you take up this job and what qualities will make you effective in this regard?
I'm sure you've seen the Code of Ethics and the Code of Conduct that has been drafted by the Editors Forum of Namibia. In the section, I think it's Schedule 2 of the code that deals with the procedures in going about in enforcing the code. It talks about the Office of the Media Ombudsman. And so the position is not applied. You don't apply for the position. It's a call is made to the public, so the public nominate people. So that's one. I did not apply. Secondly, the code also does not require the person to be a journalist or a media practitioner. So what the code requires is the person should be of a high level of integrity. I think that is one. High level of integrity, can't think now, but certainly not a media practitioner. And this year, I don't know whether you've seen the actual ad, but the ad that was placed in most of the printed media, whatever, asked very specifically that the person to be nominated by the public as for the position of a media ombudsman should be a lawyer. And I am an academic at UNAM. I'm a lawyer. So that's why I invite for. When I was informed that I've been nominated and I was called for an interview, I said, why not? So that's one. Secondly, also, why I certainly accepted the position is, like, as I've mentioned during the event 2 days ago, it's like the position of media ombudsman neatly coincides with my passion for social justice and human rights. Because a position like this would basically seek to uphold and defend the right to freedom of expression and opinion. So that's why I really went for the position. The qualities that I have: I'm a go-getter, I'm ambitious, and yes, I would like to see that things are happening, especially that more and more people become aware of their rights. In this particular case, that the right to freedom of expression.
As you start your reign as the Media Ombudsman, what is your take on the media landscape right now?
I must say, I've read, in preparation obviously for my interview, and also just generally, I've got even though I'm not a media practitioner, as I've mentioned, I do have a sense and appreciation of the media landscape. And one that I definitely know about is that Namibia, as also heralded in the Harambee Prosperity Plan, is that Namibia is regarded as being the freest press, is enjoying the freest press on the African continent. And I know the latest report from Reporters Without Borders ranked Namibia currently as 24th in the world, number 1 in Africa and number 24th in the world. The previous rating was we were 17th, so we've dropped actually from the last report. And so we are very much free, it's very pluralistic. There's a nice combination of private owned media like yourselves, and of course state-owned, like the Neo Eras and the NBCs of the world, but also community-based. So it's very pluralistic and it's consistent with the general call that the media should be free and people should be allowed to start their operations and stuff. Yeah.
As you mentioned, we are ranked #1 in Africa when it comes to press freedom. But in your opinion, are we doing a good job on the ground? As in, are we fair and impartial in our reporting?
Well, that's certainly not what I can answer, but I from talks, from what I know from colleagues that are in the profession, it's like saying, especially your colleagues that are working in the state environment, for state media, they are suffering from what we call, and you know, self-censorship. So they are restricting themselves because for the implications that may follow and whatever the case may be. But I don't think externally there's not, I don't get the sense that I've in fact never heard about any journalist that has been thrown in prison, has been arrested, or has been, of course, maybe intimidation, directly, indirectly, maybe takes place, but at least from an outsider's perspective, probably I will get into now much more in that, given this position. But from the vantage point that I'm currently having is that we are doing quite well.
There were actually last year 2 journalists from Japan that were detained and their equipment confiscated.
Right.
But moving on, one of your first tasks as the Media Ombudsman, you will be looking into instruments that government plans to introduce to regulate the media. This includes the Access to Information Bill. Now, can you tell us, what will your approach be towards initiatives such as these?
I would like to say that, of course, there are currently activities, initiatives going on. So I'm really not coming in here and trying to reinvent the wheel. My role is really, as I said the other day, is to throw my weight behind ongoing initiatives. I've spoken, for example, to Mr. Frederico Langs from the Action Coalition. And I asked him about how far is the Access to Information Bill and whatever, and how does it look, for example. And they were saying that they are very, very impressed because the current bill is very much modeled on the model law of access to information as was drafted by the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. So there are ongoing initiatives. So I'm not coming here and just want to do my own thing to be seen and whatever, because that will be wasteful, waste of resources, waste of time and energy. So yes, I'm going to work with those that are, or to get on board with those that are already up and running.
The fact that government is pushing towards control over the media by dealing with reporters that report irresponsibly, does this not concern you by making your office irrelevant, as it already deals with complaints from members of the public?
No, but I'm not going to regulate the media. The media regulates itself. I'm coming in, maybe it's a self-regulatory measurement that has been put in place by the media fraternity, and I'm basically trying to enforce the code. But that is really how it's supposed to be, self-regulation as opposed to state regulation. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights have said that self-regulation is the best way of regulating the media. So what government is trying to do is essentially undemocratic and uncalled for. So it won't make the job of the media ombudsman redundant. On the contrary, it would point to the fact that what you are doing is actually not right. So as I said, the African Commission have mentioned that stay out of it. Let it be a peer review process and whatever. So government shouldn't do these kind of things. And the idea of wanting to do it must be abandoned. And my role would be to convince government, together with all the other stakeholders that are opposed to such an idea, not to continue with the idea of wanting to regulate the media.
Why are you against the establishment of a new single telecoms internet gateway?
I've done some research after I've read the newspaper article that appeared, correct me, on the 5th of August. I've read it in the Namibian. One, and that is, I'm not an expert, but the experts within the media fraternity have pointed out several things why this would be wrong. One, it would be almost like indirect censorship, because what it would mean is like there's one way as opposed to the multiple gateways that we are currently having. So government or this body or whoever that would be in charge, and of course I'm not the expert in the field, would actually use this to filter out and to block out whatever information that comes in or goes out. In fact, through my research, I've read that in Thailand, that is having such a system, they are using it to suppress political dissent and freedom of expression and whatever. So the question is, why do you want to do it? So maybe if government takes the Namibian nation into its confidence and tell us exactly what is this animal, what is this monster that they are afraid of, then maybe some of us will understand as to why they want to do it. Because for now, it would be costly, it would slow down our internet connectivity, because instead of going to all the others, you must all now go through this, and it does not make sense. In fact, through my reading, I've also seen that countries like Finland, in addition to having declared access to the internet a human right, they've actually prescribed a certain speed, because the idea is to make access to information speedily, more faster available to the people. We want to do the very opposite, and it doesn't make sense. It will be costly because government will have to employ people, whatever, this company or whatever, to supervise them and to why do it? You can spend that money differently.
According to one expert, it might cost billions.
Exactly. So doing that, it's like, why would you want to do that? We are going through a financial crisis as a nation. We have seen the very noble idea of free education, subsidies has been cut because of the fact that it costs so much money and whatever. So now you want to use some of the state resources to do this kind of a thing. I'm saying it does not make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Right. I'd like to take you back to the Access to Information Bill. Basically, what it will be doing is it will be, dealing with reporters that are reporting irresponsibly, but then somehow these reports, obviously, complaints are already coming from, that come from the members of the public, are already going through to your office.
I must say, I'm now challenged to go and read on the. I know the bill is there, but I would admit that I haven't made it a point to really scrutinize it, because I mean, obviously, this new thing is a new thing, and now. So what I will do, I will certainly make it a point to research on this matter, and if there are really things that doesn't sit well with the. That may be seen as an indirect way of wanting to control the media through them, then obviously one would raise alarm bells and whatever. What I will also do is to get the opinion of the outgoing, or the previous, not outgoing, the previous Media Ombudsman, to hear that take, because I know he was also serving, and he's currently still serving in the Action Coalition. But as I said, I spoke to Mr. Mr. Frederico Lungs, and he was saying generally they are satisfied as media practitioners with the current form of the bill. So I don't know, maybe those concerns were taken out, but I'll follow it up.
What do you think of the idea of a media association or union? Because you were a unionist, and don't you think that it is about time that media practitioners are represented under one roof?
Media houses, you mean?
Media practitioners.
Media practitioners like yourself?
Yes, like myself.
But what do you mean under a one roof?
Like any other, like other associations?
Like a
unions,
union, you mean?
Like a union.
Oh, I see. Is that what you mean? Well, Article 21, if I'm not mistaken, 21(1)(e), it provides for the right of everyone to form and join an association or a union. So obviously, I suppose you are, of course, you're a media practitioner, but you're also a worker, isn't it? So yes, it's very much, it's the right thing for if media practitioners were to feel that we want to be represented, our interests must be represented by a specific, why not? For collective bargaining and all those things, yes, certainly. It's a human rights issue also, yeah.
So if such a suggestion comes up, arises in the future, you would be in support of it?
Why not? Unless at the moment, unless I don't understand your question, because for me, such an association would be to look into working conditions, conditions of service of media practitioners and what. Is that not what what such an association would do?
Indeed. All right, that's probably something maybe I should also
yes.
do.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. As you noted earlier, Namibia is ranked #1 when it comes to media freedom in Africa. What will you do to ensure that the country maintains this position?
The role of the Ombudsman is first and foremost to serve as an adjudicator, adjudicating over media disputes. But of course, then there's also this auxiliary role that you have to be the advocate for the right to freedom of expression and opinion. And I said to myself, given my human rights background and my passion, I would like to be a much stronger advocate for the right to freedom of expression. The reason why is that, and going out there, building coalitions, as I've already mentioned, but also going out there and engage with politicians at all levels, and for them to understand the right to political freedom. In fact, they are saying that the right to freedom of expression include the expression to actually to offend. Of course, provided that you are doing it properly. So very many times the politicians doesn't like people that disagree with them and they feel offended with what the... But that is very much part and parcel of the right to freedom of expression. And so one of my things that I would want to do is that for all of us, as far as possible, to really understand the content, the meaning, and of course the extent of the right to freedom of expression. Having one-day sessions with even media practitioners to say, okay guys, you've got this right, but this right also comes with freedom. Having sessions with, as I said, politicians, having sessions with students at all levels, whatever. So those are the kind of things that I would want to do. As an academic, as part of this role, I would like also to see this office issuing position papers every now and then on a particular issue and whatever. So these are the kind of things that I certainly think I would want to bring out.
The media and public at large has not known another media ombudsman other than your predecessor, Clement Daniels. So what will you do differently from what Daniels has already done?
Well, as I said right in the beginning, I'm not coming in to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to continue what is already there to improve, just to improve on those systems that are already there. But certainly, as I was just also saying, is to play a much prominent advocacy role. That's really what I would do. And so it is, the question that you've just asked me is basically linking up to what I've just immediately said before the question. It's like the right to freedom of expression must be much more promoted than it is currently the case. Because the right to freedom of expression is the enabler of many other rights. For example, even though the Constitution provides for the right to political activity, you cannot exercise your right to political activity without that right of freedom of expression. You guys want to start an association, which is a guaranteed right. You can't advocate for such if your right as freedom of media practitioners, if your right to freedom of expression is not allowed for you, whether rightly or wrongly so, to promote your right to belong to association. So I would want all and sundry, at all levels, from government down, everyone to really to begin to understand and appreciate the importance of the right to freedom of expression.
All right. Any last words from your side?
I'm very excited for the position, and I'm really, really very humbled. For I don't know who out there as a member of the public or group of people from the public nominated me. I'm very, very much humbled for having been nominated and eventually being appointed as the second media ombudsman for the country. And of course, I take my hat off, and it is with great admiration that I'm saying I'm taking over from someone that is very humble, is having very high standards. I know him as a personal friend. He's a man of great integrity. So I'm saying for my predecessor, he set the standard high, the bar is very high, and I'm taking it further. And with me being the person that I am, the idea is to improve on where he left it. So those would be my words in conclusion. And I would like the general public to know of this office. I would go all out. I'm going to draw in some of my students to work as student assistants with me to run this office professionally and in a very efficient manner, and to go out there and to publicize the existence of this office of the Media Ombudsman.
Right. I have one last question.
Okay.
You spoke of interactions between the media and and politicians and lawmakers and so on. A colleague of mine recently came from the United States, and she told me of how overwhelmed she was when she saw how those media practitioners over there have easy access to lawmakers, and which somehow when she compares with Namibia, it's not really the same, as in there's a bit of restriction. What do you
mean
about that?
to the politicians or to the information? I'm not so sure.
Lawmakers, politicians.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's like, it's probably part of our, we've got this notion. We attach so much importance to titles and whatever. It's like honorable and whatever. And I know from other countries also, the divide is not that huge. Yes, of course, I agree. It's like some of the politicians necessarily think there must be that. And of course, it's wrong. But of course, that has got nothing to do, maybe indirectly, with access to information. But we more talk about, this is more access to your representative, which I think, and I may be wrong, is something different from what the media is all about. The Media Ombudsman is all about, yeah.
Nakuta, let me thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we have come to the end of our show, One Exclusive. We'll be back next week. Before I go, just a reminder that you can share your views and comments with us on our social media pages or by texting them to the number 555. From me, Joseph Sheefeni, goodbye.